Good. Dean, nice to meet
Nice
you.
to see you, Dean. Oh, my God.
The point is, you're not going to be Trump, and all the money you're wasting could go to better causes.
Because I represent science. Take a look what happened. You should see the light from the ground of the king of the night.
Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal.
Top shareholders of all of these corporations are Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street, the big three. Doesn't matter how many different companies you look at in all of the different parts of our lives.
And there's an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. We will do whatever we need to do to make sure that there's enough cash in the banking system. And there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a nice day out there. Hope you're enjoying the beginning of the news show. And we are back live on air with some important stuff to bring to you guys. The New World Order is going through some transitions. Klaus Schwab has resigned. WF founder and chairman Klaus Schwab resigns with immediate effect. There's been a lot of turnover atop the New World Order, if you will. Klaus Schwab's out. Marco Bergoglio, the Pope, is out. It's all changing atop the upper level of this pyramid structure. To control your every thought is their goal. The WF former Obama appointee, Nita Farahany, we can plant false memories into the brain and instill pain to coerce.
Are convicted in their belief. And so, to Jack's point about using some of the lie detection technology, particularly for eyewitnesses, not only can we put information in without blowing up your brain, we can put it in and then you can believe it so sincerely that the problem is you can testify to that effect. And in fact, we've seen this in a number of ways. The police were doing lineups where the suggestibility of the information was so strong that people would later identify a person that they'd seen. For example, you show a picture lineup and only one person has on a jacket and nobody else does. And then when you go to the live lineup, because your brain triggered that there was something different about that person, you identify the person who you've just seen, but not realizing that it's because of some difference. And then you've seen them twice, and now you're asked to testify as an eyewitness, and you're so convicted about having seen that person commit the crime, even though that person's utterly innocent, that it becomes a planted memory. And so there's some really interesting research that we can plant false memories in the brain. And in a different context, one of the emerging areas that's really interesting in law neuroscience is pain detection. And once we understand the circuitries that cause pain, I guess the question is, could we then instill pain and use that in many coercive measures in the legal system as well?
So they can change your memories, they can implant false memories. These are the types of things the elite are working on, not how to expand humanity's footprint into the cosmos or anything useful, understanding the world around us. No, they're trying to figure out how to fuck with your brain. That's what they're doing. They're also pumping sulfur dioxide into the sky. Make Sunsets a startup that is geoengineering by injecting sulfur dioxide into the sky and then selling cooling credits. This company is polluting the air we breathe. I've instructed my team that we need to quickly get to the bottom of this and take immediate action. And that's coming out of the EPA chair. Okay? So the EPA is admitting that there's companies out there geoengineering the planet by dumping sulfur dioxide into the sky. Okay? And when I talk about, they're not geoengineering via jet fuel, I didn't say they were not geoengineering the planet. They absolutely are. They're doing all types of aerosol injection, particulate, being dropped at high altitude, all other types of things to geoengineer and cause chemtrails, which are killing everyone on the planet, giving people Alzheimer's because of the aluminum levels. It's just insane. RIP Memorial is live for Davy Crocco. I did not know about any of that. That's nice. Rest in peace there, Davy Crocco. He would appreciate a stream like this one, of course, where we deep dive some news information, which was one of Crocco's favorite things to do. To kill you by 1,000 paper cuts, so that you join Davy Crocco and Davy Crockett down in Davy's locker. Is there anything more disgusting than the food industry, which is owned by the medical industry? producing food that makes us sick, that offer us the cure to the sickness they caused in the first place. And like, obviously I can go on in this tweet and read it, or I can just tell you, like, the things are super insidious. Like, you know, I was out there protesting against GMOs. All the GMO companies are owned by big pharma companies. So they're pumping, you know, genetically modified food into people, which causes an attack on the human genome. And, you know, these food dyes and stuff like that. You go to other countries where these dyes are banned and they're still able to make the food different colors. They just have to use natural food dyes and like the colors from, you know, fruits and things like that to change the food to be these different colors. In the US, they put this food dye and stuff in there like red 40 and blue this and all that. And those food dyes affect the brains of children. It affects their DNA. You know, if you look at the field of epigenetics, all these things are affecting the human genome. And it's like, why are they constantly trying to attack human DNA and alter it from its original, you know, the original human DNA, and all these things they do are just constant attack on that. It's a constant attack on our health. And you know, they profit from the cure for all the things they cause. It's crazy. So they stick all these gross dyes into our children's foods. Like everything that children have has these dyes in it. Even their medicine has these dyes in it when you start looking for it. You know, like all these things you see where there's any color at all, that shit has dye in it. And that dye affects children's brains. It affects their behavior and makes them like crazy. It's insane what they do to us. So, you know, like people are asking, well, what should I do instead of, you know, well, eat like this and it'll help you. 2 cartons of eggs, 2 to 4 grass-fed steaks, 2 to 3 pounds of ground beef, 1 whole chicken and fish, vegetables of choice, avocados and berries, 2 large Greek yogurts. Like tonight I made for the family, it was steak and Brussels sprouts and rice for dinner. And they all ate it. You know, the kids had organic whole milk with it. So that's like how you get out of the system. You can't let your kids eat all this shit, you know, or else you'll be dealing with horrid children. Or, you know, children that end up with cancer or other horrible things because of the system and how sick the system makes people. Adrenaline epinephrine used 3.6 billion now, set to rise to 7.1 billion. Israeli drug giant Teva, so the same company that makes like all the tranny medication, the biggest supplier of epinephrine, just announced their new CEO, Richard Francis, ex-Sandoz, ex-Biogen, currently running gene therapy and cardio drug startups, also a partner at the investment firm backing them, now moving to Teva. Round and round the same circle they go. Governments fund them, academia partners with them, investors protect them, and you're the trial, you're the customer, and you're the collateral. How many children are carrying EpiPens? How many adults trapped by emergency meds? How many adrenaline injuries brushed aside as rare events? The same people protecting the same people, exploiting the same people, for profit, for control. Are you seeing it yet? It's in every industry. This corporate takeover of the planet. And now they're trying to take away your freedom of speech, even in America. Oh, but I thought we elected Donald Trump because he was going to reinstate freedom of speech. Turns out not. I guess that's not on the menu anymore.
Is Mr. Phelan to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So this is a bill, HB 366, which criminalizes political memes if they don't include a disclaimer. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
HB 366 is a step towards transparency and integrity in political advertising. Move passage.
Question occurs on passage to engrossment. Question occurs. The question occurs on passage to engrossment of HB 366. Record vote has been requested. Record vote is granted. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Moody voting aye. Show Ms. Jones of Harris voting aye. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? There being 106 ayes and 39 nays, HB 366 is passed to engrossment. Clerk, excuse me. The chair lays out on second reading HB 460.
So there you go. Even the Republicans are now taking away your freedom of speech. It's both sides of the aisle attacking our freedoms, our rights, working for the bankers. I haven't seen the Federal Reserve brought up at all recently. You know, where is this whole end the Fed movement that disappeared? The biggest fraud ever, you know, here's the Doge father over here. Well, he's investigating corporate and government fraud, right? What happened to the largest fraud ever in the history of the world, the Federal Reserve? How can you audit the federal government and not come across this giant behemoth, the giant elephant in the room, if you will? You know? And then meanwhile, have we had any arrests of any of the Epstein clientele? No, but we have had a very, very strange suicide of Virginia Giuffre. Epstein and Prince Andrew abuse accuser dies by suicide at age 41. Giuffre has died by suicide, according to a statement from her family. Meanwhile, she had tweeted this out. Hold on. Virginia Giuffre, I'm making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. I have made this known to my therapist and GP. If something happens to me, in the sake of my family, do not let this go away and help me protect them. Too many evil people want to see me quieted. There you go. So, they're saying she committed suicide, yet before she did so, she said, I'm not suicidal. We've seen this countless times when this, you know, pedophile cult gets exposed. You know, it was interesting. This information about the Manson murders with Sharon Tate and all them. So, like, for instance, with the Manson murders, the heiress of the Folgers coffee fortune was, I guess, involved in the Sharon Tate murders with the Manson family. And if you go fast forward to, like, the modern day, the Izette Folger chick, you know, of Folgers Coffee, was involved with Pie Fence and was, like, commenting on all of Alifanis's, like, Instagram posts that were all creepy and strange. Right? So, like, this little pedo cult, if you will, that's all connected to, like, Epstein Island, to Pie Fence, and to stuff that goes as far back as, like, the Sharon Tate murders in the Manson family. And, like, all the stuff that they talk about in the program The Kill series, where this cult just keeps popping up in random places. And, like, one person ends up getting thrown in jail, but then the clientele list always goes missing. This is, like, the same thing that keeps popping up over time. And the clientele never get in trouble, right? The guys with the money that are being entrapped, they never somehow get in trouble for this stuff. Other victims have come out and, you know, they're obviously worried because Virginia Giuffre was suicided. So they're coming out and being like, you know, they're not suicidal either. Here's Juliet Bryant, who says she was kidnapped by Epstein over 2 decades ago, claims she met Epstein in Africa.
My name is Julia Bryant, and I live in Cape Town, South Africa. I was kidnapped by Jeffrey Epstein 20 years ago. I am not suicidal. I live in Cape Town, South Africa. I was kidnapped by Jeffrey Epstein 20 years ago. I am not suicidal, and I never ever will be. I also do not do any drugs. I met Epstein when he was in Africa with Bill Clinton. We all know about the Clinton body count. Another concerning fact is that one of the main women, a very brave angel, Carolyn, who testified against Ghislaine Maxwell, was found dead 6 months ago. It wasn't in the media until a few days ago. The only reason it was put in the media was because of a very, very brave Epstein victim. She doesn't want to be named. But there are other Epstein victims who've also died suspiciously. Carolyn was a beautiful, amazing, brave woman who planned a life on a chicken farm with her family. Instead, she was found dead in a hotel room. I want to speak out for safety and for other victims because it's very frightening when the media won't cover any of the victims' stories. A lot of my story hasn't been told in the media, and it's the same with a lot of other victims. And we actually all feel quite frightened with everything that's been going on. And as we know, this is not the first suspicious death related to the evil Maxwell empire. They also used to run the media. So maybe that's why victim stories are not being told to the media, and the victims of Epstein feel very frightened. Please all pray for Carolyn's family. And thank you for listening.
And, the Epstein clientele, the Epstein thing has never really been investigated. And, they went to serve because of the civil lawsuit and all that kind of stuff. They went and tried to locate a whole bunch of these Epstein victims, and they're all missing. There's like hundreds of Epstein victims missing that have been identified, but they're just gone, can't be found. And on top of that, we know for a fact that they were flying in all types of girls from foreign countries to the island. And we know that a lot more girls went to the island than left the island. So, how do the numbers add up if they're not getting rid of some of these victims and murdering them and all that kind of stuff? And they've never been held on any of those kind of charges at all. They've never come after Ghislaine Maxwell for murder or anything, even though it's quite obvious that they're involved in such activity. Epstein files, they still haven't been released. This guy from Judicial Watch is trying to get them released.
Why do you think the Epstein information should be released?
Because it was a scandal. It was a powerful person who seemingly got away with serious crimes. He's connected to powerful individuals. It's not just an American scandal, it's an international scandal. The poor Queen of England was having to deal with her son, Prince Andrew, getting caught up in this abuse, it looks like. And so people want to know who else was involved. They want to know the full scope of it and how he got away with abusing more women for years, despite the feds having him dead to rights.
Well, we know how he got away with it. It was a joint blackmail operation for various intelligence agencies, from the Mossad to the FBI to the CIA. So that's the how, okay? Future AI dystopian world via warfare. So let's get into some very interesting things that have been happening that have not been very well covered by mainstream media, and I haven't seen alternative media really cover this much either. So some interesting statistics have come out recently. And the Ukrainian war, which I was calling a drone war, is now absolutely such. So we are now experiencing the first war where drones and robotics have done the vast majority of killing during the war. Drones now account for 80% of the casualties in the Ukraine-Russian war. So that means drones, not assault rifles, not artillery, not strategic bombers, none of that other stuff. It's the tiny little drones, little cheap drones that they're attaching grenades and stuff to. Those have killed 80% of the soldiers during this Ukraine war. Drones are causing in excess of 1,000 combat casualties per day in Ukraine right now. Russia has killed 250,000 Ukrainian personnel or so, it's thought. And the Russians, what is it they've lost? Somewhere around 926,000 personnel is what Russia has lost. Russian casualties continues to climb daily, now at over 926,000. And it's believed the Ukrainians are somewhere around 250,000. The calculations of North Korean military operations assisting, the North Koreans have sustained over 5,000 casualties. This drone warfare is insane. No one's making any gains on the ground in terms of territory, really. It's basically just, like a World War I trench warfare with drones flying into the trenches, killing people. The illegal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine is continuing. Map below is the latest defense intelligence update on the situation of Ukraine. So you can see there, how much Russia still has, which is roughly the same amount they had a year ago. For Russia to get back to its pre-invasion levels of force, it would take 5 years for it to rebuild its military strength. And that's if it wasn't still in war in Ukraine. Hans Juker, I didn't come up with the statistics. If you disagree with the stats, that's fine. This is coming out of armytechnology.com. So the stats could be wrong, who knows. But the important part of this article is not, who's killing who at what rate. The important part is drones are killing people on both sides at 80% rate. It's 80% drones killing Russians and Ukrainians in this war, which is insane. It's a completely different type of warfare than we've ever seen in the past. And not only is it killing the soldiers, it's killing the civilians. Drones become most common cause of death for civilians in Ukraine war, UN says. Short-range aerial drones were the most common killer of civilians in Ukraine in January. The UN's monitoring mission said on Tuesday, highlighting how drone use has ballooned during 3 years of war with Russia. The UN mission said that at least 139 civilians were killed, 738 wounded in January 2025, with 27% of the deaths and 30% of the injuries caused by short-range drones. I mean, it's completely changed warfare, what's going on with this whole Ukraine situation. It's becoming the war that we worried about would be coming in the future, where we're not really fighting other humans, we're now fighting drones. So it's like, how do you even deal with these things? Well, this right here seems to be the best answer to any of these things, as always, is a shotgun. That's, what's the a shotgun? Yeah, that sounds like the solution. There was a time when people would critique our strategy of engaging FPV drones with a 12-gauge platform. We're probably the first major player in the industry to field both a CUAS specific shotgun and ammunition. So they've basically designed this ammunition and shotgun to deal with these, short-range drones. So any country now needs to train its soldiers on drone warfare. And I would say they would need to equip every soldier with some sort of anti-drone shotgun or something so they can defend themselves against these things. 80% of the casualties are being caused by drones. It now should be like the main training thing that you're teaching people. Now all those times my dad was like, hey, you know what's completely useless? Video games. Not anymore. Not anymore. Now video games, turns out, is like the most useful thing ever because that's the same skill set used to fly these drones. Time to invent and mass manufacture EMP bullets is nearing, or humanity is doomed. So not only are drones now the #1 killer on the battlefield, which, just think about the future world that brings us into, where if these drones start to become networked to some sort of artificial intelligence that's better at flying them than humans, how long before that AI turns these drones on all of us? Because humanity's a threat to the AI central computer, Grok 3 mini-made AI history. 100% on hardcore reasoning tests. So you can see AI is making massive advancements. And they have everyone using it now. So everyone's contributing to the development and helping AI develop faster because everyone's using AI. So there you go. This Grok thing that everyone's using on Twitter now. I had some guy arguing with me who was like, oh, you don't know jack shit about jet fuel and you should just be using Grok to tell you the answers. And I'm like, dude, I'm not having to even use Google. I'm just shooting from the cuff because I work with this shit every day. I'm not going to verify stuff I do every day with Grok. And go fuck yourself. So sick of people. So they're so easy to jump on and just become friends with AI. John Connor would not be fucking happy with you people. Okay? Ever seen the film War Games? Now it's a documentary. NATO acquires advanced AI-enabled warfighting system from American company Palantir Technologies. That's right. The very same people we warned you about, the PayPal mafia, that was all connected up with Elon Musk and all these people, same people I've been warning about forever, are now going to be connecting AI to NATO's warfighting systems, which is America's warfighting systems. This is not good. You have seen the film War Games, right? NATO has officially acquired the Maven Smart System NATO MSS NATO Advanced Artificial Intelligence Platform developed by Palantir Tech to support Allied command operations. The agreement finalized on March 25th, 2025 by NATO Communications and Information Agency and Palantir marks a significant step in modernizing NATO's military capabilities. Miss NATO, oh God, no. It's not only an AI, it's a female AI. We're doomed. It's going to be like, oh, well, you know, Russia was talking shit behind my back and said that my dress made my hips look big. So that's going to cause the end of the world. Like, that'll be how the nuclear holocaust begins, with Miss NATO in charge. Designed to enhance command and control functions by integrating advanced AI applications, including large language models, generative AI, and machine learning. These capabilities aim to improve intelligence fusion, battle space awareness, targeting, and decision-making processes across the alliance. NCIA is pleased to team up with Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe, SHAPE, and Palantir to deliver Miss NATO to the warfighter, delivering customized state-of-the-art AI capabilities to the alliance. I mean, shit, all you need is the evil empire fucking music from Star Wars with this shit. This is exactly how, you know, Skynet was created. We've seen this before. We know how this plays out, yet they're doing it anyways. And not only that, the future is going to be clearly, as I've said for a long time, and people used to call me crazy because I thought 9/11 was done with DEWs. Now DEWs are everywhere. They're absolutely everywhere. And they're like not crazy to talk about anymore all of a sudden. Here comes the Royal Navy's laser fleet of laser ships. In a giant leap toward futuristic naval warfare, the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense has announced plan to equip 4 Royal Navy destroyers with Dragonfire laser weapon systems by 2027. In development since 2017, the MOD's Defense Science and Technology Lab, in cooperation with defense industry partners MBDA, Leonardo, and Cunitech, Dragonfire is a 50 kilowatt laser weapon that can engage airborne targets with precision equivalent to hitting a 1-pound coin from a kilometer away, at an average cost of as little as 10 pounds a shot, as the MOD put it in January 2024. So there you go. Direct energy weapon systems are now, firing high-powered in publicly firing high-powered multi-kilowatt lasers that can pinpoint targets in the sky. Let's see, who else has this? Oh, they're putting these on infantry vehicles. Remember I said a couple years ago that the next thing they're going to do is start putting these on everything? Because they realized one of the limitations of all their vehicles is ammunition, right? It's, the fuel to get somewhere, ammunition, and then the personnel. Well, they've pretty much figured out how to get rid of the personnel, and now they've figured out how to get rid of the ammunition because they can just put laser weapons on these things. The only thing they're going to need to figure out after that is how to have endless fuel, and then they'll have killing machines that can kill 24/7, 365, and never have to stop. Wonderful world we're moving into. Oh, but Titus, how are we going to have our Jew wars forever without these excellent new weapons? And now I don't even have to pay the soldiers. I can just kill Goyim like 24 hours a day. Okay? This is what's going on. And they're like, well, what do you really need for these ridiculous wars? That's right. But we need some sharks with freaking laser beams attached to their heads to kill even more Goyim. Oh yeah, you got it. Look, we have the money for that, don't we? Ukraine says it has alligators with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads. I shit you not. Video presented at a European Defense Conference and published to YouTube in April Ukraine's unmanned system forces revealed footage of its new Alligator 9 unmanned surface vehicle, a multi-role naval platform that's purportedly customizable for missions ranging from precision strike to electronic warfare. Alligator 9 has 3 primary configurations. In 2 configurations, the system serves as a launch platform for smaller drones, either a swarm of 6 to 10 Alligator 5 TOD torpedo-style suicide drones for conventional strikes against enemy vessels, or a group of 3 to 5 Alligator 5 EW drones to provide electronic warfare, reconnaissance, and mine-clearing support. But the third configuration is the most novel. The Alligator 9 can allegedly play host to Ukrainian military's new Turzib or Trident laser weapon system, an integration that effectively turns the system what can be best described as a laser gunboat. So there you go. Alligator with lasers attached to its frickin' head, basically. So it has come true. Finally, we have these things, and Russia won't be left behind either. Putin is dreaming of a Russian laser arsenal. Russia's decades-long obsession with laser weapons may finally catch up with reality. So, they've only been dreaming about these things for decades, as if they don't have secret programs where they're developing this stuff since the early 80s. Russian President Vladimir Putin has a message for the country's military-industrial complex. It's time to get serious about high-energy laser weapons. The very thing they claimed that they didn't have, couldn't possibly build. There's no way there's any sort of high energy, direct energy weapon systems. Right. Not only 20 years later, here we are. Speaking to members of Russia's Military Industrial Commission for VPK during a meeting at the Kremlin on April 23rd, Putin stated that the country's military and defense industry must accelerate the development of next-generation weapon systems in order to stay one step ahead of Western militaries as they apply lessons from the invasion of Ukraine to new weapons development and tactics. Among the specific technologies Putin listed were various unmanned systems with specific emphasis on drone boats, artificial intelligence, and of course, high-energy laser weapons capable of hitting various targets, including drones, and potentially other military equipment such as aircraft, missiles, and the like. So this is the world we're moving into. Russia's going to have autonomous drones and weapons with lasers on them. The West is going to have autonomous drones and like all this shit connected to AI with laser weaponry on it. Fun world, isn't it? This is what we're investing all of our money in. Just new and interesting ways to kill humans. And then we're going to hand the controls to all the shit over to AI. It's absolutely insane. We're just preparing our own demise. You thought the stuff in the food was bad. And here we have demolition of the West, which is being done by design, as you all know. New stats show a small but non-trivial percentage, 4% of Biden's migrants in New York City committed a lot of crimes. 3,219 migrants arrested 4,884 times. Petite larcenies or minor thefts, 444 assaults, 235 robberies, 493 grand larcenies. This is what they're bringing in. Because when you bring in these third world people that have turned their countries into third world shitholes, they bring that mentality and all that bullshit to your country with them. And then they come to our country and they turn parts of our country into third world shitholes. You can't bring these migrants into the United States. It was completely different when you were bringing in high IQ people from Europe that helped build this country up. When you're bringing in these low IQ fucking criminal elements from third world countries that can't build their own country up for shit, it's completely different. None of these people are going to move to America and like build cathedrals. Great population collapse. The great population collapse you can see here. The entire developed world is dying. You can see here birth rates are absolutely way down. Human mortality database. Total number of births per 1,000 people in a given year. You can see all of the like countries, that you consider like the high IQ countries where white people live are all dying off. There's only one that isn't, and it's a very small country in the Middle East called Israel, and they're one of the only developed countries that's experiencing population growth. And that's because all of this stuff where they point to all the anti-Semitism and everything else that's going on that drives Jews back to Israel, and they can increase population by immigration and by other policies that help them grow their population, which allows them to expand their territory. And they're the only country that's been allowed to expand their territory in recent history without facing like, an American invasion or something. The Shiloh Hendrix thing, I'm going to cover this in about 2 seconds. Here's my opinion on Shiloh Hendrix. It's psyops. 100% psyops. It's way too set up, too convenient. The guy who filmed it just happens to not even be the parent of the child. He happens to be some like convicted pedo with a record. And then the child that she yelled the N-word at happens to be autistic, so it's like a handicapped child. So it makes you look really bad if you support this lady. But, if you don't support her, then everyone's mad at you because black people have been doing all types of stupid shit and committing all types of crime and all this crap. So it's like, do you support her? Of course you gotta support her. It's all a fucking psyop, okay? It's a fucking psyop. There's no fucking way in hell that shit just happened to be filmed in the way it was filmed, with her being the exact type of person that she was, acting that way, and then it goes super mega viral, and she gets like $500,000. It's just, there's no fucking way. I'm sorry. That's definitely psyops. That's definitely the shit where they're like, yo, let's find a way to get everyone mad at each other, have more race war type shit going on, because that keeps the heat off the bankers. Like, everyone's pissed off about inflation, right? Isn't that what we're all mad about? Inflation? What does that have to do with black people? Nothing. Last I checked, it wasn't black people in charge of the Federal Reserve banking system, right? So, you want to talk about biggest crimes going on? They're robbing all of us, like in plain daylight. We all know what's going on, and no one's doing anything about it, right? They just find new interesting ways to divide us up, to get us all mad at each other, when what we should be pissed off about is the fucking banking cartel, the State Street Vanguard fucking nonsense giant corporation that owns everything through like BlackRock and all this bullshit. Fuck these people and their stupid banking fucking nonsense. That's what we should be mad about. Not, oh, some bitch dropped an N-bomb at the park. Who fucking cares? Congratulations. Move on. Meanwhile, we're dealing with the shit the bankers are doing to us, which is this invasion of our country by these, like, I'm sorry, but Islam is not like a peaceful, nice religion. You're not even, if you don't believe in Islam, you're not even allowed into Mecca. Why should we allow any of these people into our countries When they don't allow us into their country, you can't be a Christian and be in Mecca. You know, why should we allow Muslims to be in America, a Christian country? It's not like it's a peaceful religion. It's a religion based on violence. That's how it's spread. Muhammad went around funded by some, you know, Vatican fucking, you know, basically whore that funded Muhammad to go around and kill people. This is Michigan.
حضرت كل فئة شعب وامرأة درة ولؤلؤة اي درة ولؤلؤة.
This is Dearborn, Michigan. This isn't like, you know, Saudi Arabia or something.
أعظم تجارة بيوم الزيارة الله لحفة غير أبع صيحة صيحة الله واكل تعطر موكبه من طبل.
I'm sorry, but I consider this an invasion by a violent extremist religion of people that worship a pedophile. Muhammad had like a 13-year-old wife or some shit.
ضيف وعذب اش ما حلاها اش ما حلاها المشاية ملح الخارطة والموكب فراش وغطا اش ما حلاها اش ما حلاها إذا كنت عطر موكبه من طاولة ضيف وعذب اش ما حلاها اش ما حلاها المشاية ملح الخارطة والموكب فراش وغطا اش ما حلاها.
Like, oh,
الإمام الحسين.
You know, these people, you know, they're just believing in their own religion, yet they are like supporting a religion that persecutes Christianity and has made Christianity the most persecuted religion on earth. You know, none of the countries where this religion is the main religion is it safe to be a Christian. They'll fucking behead you. So, fuck them if I don't want their religion and their bullshit in my country.
حسين عليه السلام بأنهم ماضون على العهد وباقون على العهد وأنهم معه في الساحات ويهتفون بملء الحناجر لن نتركك.
And we see this huge crowd in Dearborn, Michigan to express their love and solidarity and support for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and to say كل يوم عاشوراء وكل أرض كربلاء. Here thousands of people are saying لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا كربلاء and لبيك يا غزة.
Yeah, that's not English, bro, and I don't understand what you're saying, nor do I care. Like, I just think it's a giant invasion of our countries. And meanwhile, over in England, these statistics are insane. 250,000 white British girls have been raped in the last 25 years, over 90% by Muslims. Lord Pearson in the House of Lords. The numbers are staggering. An absolutely satanic presence overshadows all of the West, fueled by literal demons.
But except that if we extrapolate nationally, the Jay report on Rotherham and other reports on Telford and Oxford, there appear to have been upwards of 250,000 young white girls raped in this century, very largely by Muslim men. And given these girls are usually raped several times a day for years, so, my lords, what is the government's answer to the Chief Constable of Northumbria, who has just said that there is every likelihood that these grooming gangs are operating in every one of our major cities? So, my lords, what is the government doing to prosecute those in authority who turned a blind eye to all this because they were afraid of being Islamophobic and so on? And what is it doing to compensate and help these victims mentally?
Well, the answer is nothing, because England has been completely overrun by this Islam bullshit, and there's mosques and shit everywhere now, and a ton of the mayors of England are now Muslim, and they've been completely overrun. Like, the English country is, it's no longer England. It's not the England I remember visiting, the last fucking 20-something years. Anti-white agenda. I wonder who's behind it.
Oi, Titus, you're not going to talk about this now. I mean, Christ almighty, the anti-white agenda.
So if you take into consideration what I believe, which is that we are living in a world run by a bunch of Satanists, and then you consider the fact that the white race is the actual true ancient Israelites. If you go and watch, I'm pulling up right now. If you type in ancient Israelites were white into your like YouTube thing, you'll come up with this 100 proofs the Israelites were white. So when you watch that, like there's clear evidence that, for instance, they always try to claim that Jesus Christ was some sort of like Palestinian dude and all this kind of stuff. He was a race of people called the Nazarenes. And the Nazarenes were described by multiple eyewitnesses as being white, right? And Jesus was described by two first-hand people, one being Pontius Pilate, who wrote a letter to the emperor at the time of the trial, a guy who saw Jesus in person. Pontius Pilate described him as having blonde hair and blue eyes, describing Jesus as that. And then there was a famous Roman historian who was there at the trial, and he also described Jesus as being a white guy with blonde hair. So why is it that the media tries to hide all this information from you, that, you know, the actual ancient Israelites were white people, and that's who spread across the world carrying God's message to all the other people? That's the, you know, the race of people that has been favored by God to deliver God's message across the world. That's who has been spread across the world and has not been reassembled in Jerusalem, because modern day Israel is not the Israel of the Bible, not even close. Okay? Modern day Israel is the Israel of the Satanists, not the Israel of the Bible. And that's why I think that these Satanists, these Luciferians, have targeted the white race, right? Because they are the fake Jews. Like, they're the fake ancient Israelites.
But oy vey, Titus, these lands were promised to us like 6,000 years ago. We're like totally the actual real Jews of the Bible and stuff. Like, how dare you say that we're not the, like, special people?
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a total lie. They've taken on this thing because they followed some guy, Eber, which is where they get Hebrew from, who was born, like, after Jesus. Okay?
But how dare you say that we're not like the super ancient Jews of the Bible? Like, we're totally special and stuff just because we hijacked it.
Okay? Gun crime versus having guns. The proof is in the pudding. 7 months ago, Ohio started allowing citizens to carry concealed firearms without permits. A study has found that gun crime rates have since decreased in 6 of the 8 largest cities in that state.
The issues that has plagued the cities across Ohio, including here in central Ohio, is gun violence.
A new study just released is now unearthing if the Buckeye State's constitutional carry law impacted gun violence in cities. We thank you for joining us today for NBC4 at 5. I'm Jared Smalley.
And I'm Jennifer Bullock. The study was published today by the Center for Justice Research through a partnership between Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost's office and Bowling Green State University.
I remember back on June 13th, the state began allowing citizens to carry a concealed weapon without a permit. The study looked at gun violence in the state's 8 largest cities. 6 saw less gun crimes after the law changed. The data spans from June 2021 to June 2023.
And one of those cities that saw a decrease was the city of Columbus. Before the law, the rate per 1,000 people of crimes was 10.79. It dropped to nearly 9.5%. Other cities that saw decreases are Cleveland, Toledo, Akron, Parma, and Canton. The cities that featured a jump are Cincinnati and Dayton. NBC4 spoke with Attorney General Dave Yost today, who says this proves those statements are not true.
So I think this is worth watching as we go to the future to see if it remains the same. But this is scientifically a good piece of work, and it definitively says that constitutional carry did not create additional gun violence.
The Attorney General says this does not mean there is not a gun violence problem in the state.
Yes, there's a gun violence problem in the state, but it made better by just allowing people to carry guns. Oh, you don't need a license anymore, you can just carry. Problem solved. Gun violence down. Turns out when you allow good people to carry guns, the bad guys don't have the same power they used to have. This is the answer across the country. This is what they should do. Everyone's allowed to constitutionally carry guns. The end. You don't need a license anywhere. That's the solution. White people have culture. So this is what they're saying, like, you know, white people, twerking isn't dancing, also white people. Now, see, I watched this and I think this is impressive. I don't know what you guys think in the chat, but this to me is culture and impressive dancing. I'll take that over rap music crap any day of the week. That actually takes skill. It's not just like twerking and gyrating your ass while people throw dollar bills y'all on you. You know? But hey, you know, I guess we have no culture. Something shocking that leaves you stunned and speechless. The fiercest wars in history have never witnessed anything like this. The city has been wiped off the face of the earth. This was Gaza. Look at that, it's insane. So this is the Belt and Road Wars. This is the Greater Israel Plan. As Israel continues to expand. I mean, you thought Dearborn, Michigan looked bad. Look at this place. Holy hell. Does Larry Silverstein need to chime in on this one?
But you see, Titus, those buildings there was Hamas. That was all Hamas. Every one of those buildings that you see from the river to the sea was all Hamas. There's terrorists everywhere. We had to save the hostages by just destroying the entire city just in case.
I mean, what the fuck? And then across the other side of the world, the other part of the Belt and Road Initiative is still expanding. China would hold more sway in the world today if Xi Jinping hasn't been a mobster for the past 12 years. Xi Jinping in Malaysia calls on Asian nations to resist confrontation and protectionism. That's right. No confrontation, don't protect yourself, just bend over and take it from China. Okay? He's getting a state palace welcome from Malaysia's king and prime minister. He's imposed the 9-dash line on Asian nations, claiming most of the South China Sea for Beijing against international law, building Chinese military facilities on disputed islands, and using the Coast Guard to harass vessels of other countries. You can see here they're just like straight up claiming lots of these islands. Z has now started calling for a partnership with Europe, the very same Europe China has been abusing no less than the USA, while supporting the murderous regime in Moscow, helping it wage war in Ukraine, which, let's be honest, is really just a war on the West. Right? So here, as I said, what is the plan for the bankers? The plan is the Belt and Road Initiative, the new multipolar world order. They have to connect German high technology to Chinese slave labor and Russian raw materials. And this is what they continue to do. You can see a partnership with Europe is now what Z is calling for, which is exactly the whole point. And this is why they have Trump, who's, you know, Trump does some things that are beneficial for America, but a lot of times I feel like the powers that shouldn't be are using him for their own goals, right? For instance, all of this separating away from China and all that, that's just pushing China more towards this Belt and Road Initiative world, right? By separating from the US, by cutting trade with China, instead of increasing trade with China and increasing US exports to China, Trump is basically just cutting ties with them, which, you know, I know we shouldn't be working with the Chinese, but that's how you avoid war as well, is by having lots of trade with a country. When you separate and isolate countries from each other, that's when they're more willing to go to war. And the last thing we want is another major war going on, especially with China, which has like 200 million soldiers or some crazy number of soldiers. So it's just, you know, the whole thing's paradoxical because Xi Jinping's been using these crazy mob tactics to build the BRI. One of the countries in the BRI in this age of empires, Panama, breaks with China and aligns itself with the United States. Molino abandons the Silk Road, which is the Belt and Road Initiative, resumes military exercises with Washington, and joins forces with Pete Hegseth to secure the canal, curb migration, and contain communist advance in the region. So you can see here, one of the major worries, and I covered this a while ago, was the fact that the Chinese were basically getting control over the Panama Canal, which is a major route of transit for lots of stuff, you know, like just going from the east to the west. If you're transporting large stuff from the east coast of the US to the west coast, you need to go through the Panama Canal. Like, not having access to that could be a major strategic advantage for the Chinese, and it's really good to see the United States, at least in this regard, is putting an end to that bullshit and taking back over control of the Panama Canal. And the Chinese, you're like, well, what's wrong with China? Well, China, you're like, oh, America's bad and all this. You have no idea. Like, you must not have been to China, because China's a fucking mess. Okay? When you stand on the top of the towers in Shanghai and you look in the direction they never allow to be filmed in any Hollywood movie, you can see, as far as the eye can see, government housing. And the only difference between like a whole section of housing and another is the color on the roof. It's like, you know, what you would think of as hell on earth. And that's in Shanghai, one of the nicest parts of China. Like, China's an absolute dump. You do never, ever, ever want to live there, ever, compared to any Western country. Ed Miliband says, GB Energy won't use solar panels made with slave labor. How are they going to do that then? It can't be done. Most components are untraceable. Miliband to block GB Energy from using solar panels linked to Chinese slave labor. And this is like a legitimate thing. The Chinese have slave labor going on in their country. That's how they're able to make stuff so much cheaper. And when you're buying stuff and supporting that, you're basically a total piece of shit. Okay? So all these countries need to figure out how to build stuff without buying it from China, because China needs to make serious reforms to join the rest of the modern fucking world in how they treat their employees and how they treat human beings. Red Bar's watching. I highly doubt it. There's barely anybody watching, so my stream gets like, you know, a small number of people watching. Exclusive: South Korea protests China's fixed offshore platform in the Yellow Sea. South Korea confirms additional Chinese rig-style structure in the Yellow Sea. PMZ protests installation mid expansion. So you can see these things they're building. They're calling them, you know, not permanent structures because they float. But these things are basically permanent structures that China is putting all over the place. China claims the two mobile structures in the PMZ are aquaculture facilities named Shenlan, and that the nearby fixed installation was built to manage them. However, the South Korean government is developing countermeasures amid growing concern that Beijing may be pursuing a broader push to expand its maritime footprint in the Yellow Sea, a strategy reminiscent of its actions in the South China Sea, where similar offshore structures are used to extend territorial claims and strengthen control. And all these things, as I've told you guys, in China, when they build this stuff, have dual purpose use for military technology. So they're saying, oh, it's for this or for that. What it always ends up being is for that thing, but also dual purpose use for the military. So they're lying as always, and they're trying to expand their control over the South China Sea up near Korea. Or sorry, the Yellow Sea, not the South China Sea, but also the South China Sea. This is just another area they're trying to expand control. The Duman River Car Bridge ready for acceleration. So one of the big advancements here in the Belt and Road Initiative infrastructure was captured that North Korea and Russia were speeding up the construction of the Duman River Motor Bridge, which was agreed at the summit of the two countries in June last year. It's also claimed that North Korea would support Russia by sending troops to the mainland of Ukraine after Russian territory of Kursk. This raises an analysis that North Korea's military and economic cooperation is intensifying. So you can see here, you know, North Korea sent a bunch of troops to Ukraine to fight for Russia, and Russia is repaying them by rebuilding this bridge and increasing trade between Russia and North Korea, right? So this is the Belt and Road Initiative. North Korea is getting its payout for helping fight the Ukraine war. Captured by satellite imagery there. And of course, the Belt and Road Initiative wouldn't be complete without, of course, the Belt and Road Games, right? Why not? Greater Bay Area could benefit from the proposed Belt and Road Games. Yeah, I shit you not. So here, the GBA, which I believe is in Hong Kong, is going to benefit from the proposed Belt and Road Games. So they're going to hold the first one of these things, their own like Olympics, except they're calling it the Belt and Road Games, to emphasize the advancement of this massive infrastructure project. It's amazing to me that you still never hear about this BRI thing from anyone else in alternative media. Meanwhile, they're restructuring the rest of the planet. This is the global reset, the shift to a multipolar world order and endless war between the two sides, right? So they're even creating their own Olympics, their own games, like all this stuff is going on. I never hear anyone else talking about it. I have to like research and find all this stuff for myself because no one else wants to cover this stuff. Like they're literally creating like Belt and Road Hunger Games. So, you know, things are advancing. The multipolar world order is coming together. And the last bit of news, which I know is like the most exciting for everyone here, is this story came out and also has to do with a lawsuit that's been served, I believe. So, contentious research, mysterious puzzles, spoiled romance, endless tweets. How an accomplished professor went from a chronicler of conspiracy theories to a character in one. I mean, this is an unbelievable news article. Let's try to go through this. I mean, this is insane. So this has to do with Laura Dilley, Arturo Tafoya, known as Lestat, and the ridiculous fucking nonsense that this lady, this professor came up with, where she claims people like me are heavily involved in QAnon, despite the fact that a very simple search of the information I've put out since the very beginning of the QAnon thing would point you in the direction that I've been anti-Q the entire time. That people like me, David Seaman, the other main people behind exposing Pie Fence, you know, about that pizza place down in DC, all of us that exposed that, the main researchers behind that, we were all anti-Q from the beginning. From the very beginning, documented, on record, anti that thing the entire time. Even at the detriment of losing big parts of our audience for not going along with that psyop. And then this lady comes out later and accuses us of being the centerpieces, accuses me of being a centerpiece in this bullshit. I'm glad she got fucking sued for it. I hope they take her to court and she loses her fucking job and they fucking sue the shit out of MSU for publishing this crap. It's total fucking nonsense. It's defamatory. She knows it's wrong. Multiple people that she's accused in this thing have reached out to her and proven to her that she's wrong. She's basing all of her information on stuff given to her by, and I hate to be mean to Tafoya here, but a drug addict from Mexico that has no prior research experience in posting any academic papers whatsoever, and math data from Twitter that because people liked people's posts, that means they're in a conspiracy together. It is the biggest load of horseshit ever published as academic research ever. She's a complete fucking moron. And not only that, she got involved in a romantic relationship that has now been published all over the internet because she wanted to become famous or some bullshit. I have no idea why she ever got involved in this stuff, but those are all facts of the case. Okay? This, if you can even call it academic, whatever the fuck it was, absolute garbage. So let's go through this article here by Alex Walters and Theo Skier. In the very front of Michigan State University's boardroom, Barry Powers restlessly ruffled through a mess of documents and legal pads in his two oversized briefcases. As trustees debated infrastructure plans in a new room and board rate, the Mount Clemens attorney popped mints and combed his hair, preparing to speak during the meeting's public comment period. When his brief time slot came, he pulled out 9 copies of a lawsuit out of an Adidas drawstring bag and walked up to the podium. Arts, science, letters, humanities, social sciences, natural sciences, mathematics, music, agricultural applications, business, manufacturing, medicine, law, the truth, scientia, knowledge, he yelled. This is your mission. What is not within your purview, he asked. Social justice, ideologic, religious, or spiritual proselytization, anti-American radicalism, yellow journalism, he answered, slamming his fist for emphasis. Court of claims, you've been served. Before he could sufficiently explain the matter that brought him before the board, his time ran out and he was told to take a seat. The spectacle was an unusual departure from Friday's routine meeting. Power's speech was met with confused shrugs among the board, a straight laugh from a faculty senator, and a subdued smirk from the university's general counsel. A more knowing reaction could be found across the room. There sat Laura Dilley, a MSU professor whose research paper and incendiary social media post had set off an elaborate online feud with Power's client, Thomas Schoenberger. He's known as an architect of cerebral puzzles to some and a notorious online provocateur to others. Dilley's research gave him a new moniker, QAnon Insider, which is complete horseshit. Schoenberger detests the characterization, claiming he has no involvement with the extremist conspiracy. In legal filings, he paints himself as an entirely apolitical 64-year-old composer who only has a penchant for eccentric puzzles and mesmerizing YouTube videos. The lawsuit argues that his reputation and ability to work have been crippled by Dilley's claims, including that he helped promote QAnon, had Russian operatives harass journal editors, and may have caused the mass shooting on MSU's campus in 2023, among others. I mean, it's been insane, just retarded claims by Laura Dilley. Like, it's nuts. Schoenberger frames his actions to correct the record as a righteous crusade against a crooked academic. Dilley, however, calls them a campaign of retaliatory harassment. The key word there, Dilley, would be retaliatory. He's responding to you and your bullshit. You're like, no matter the interpretation, the lawsuit pulls MSU into a long-standing feud that's ordinarily confined to an odd alcove of the internet. If Schoenberger gets his way, the board meeting will only be the beginning. Fights that feel more at home on anonymous blogs will become the business of university lawyers in Michigan courts. No, that was actually Laura Dilley's wish. I hate to break it to you. She's the one that brought this into the world of academia. Each member of MSU's board of trustees, and why did she do it? Oh, because she was in love with Lestat, and Lestat hated Thomas. So therefore, Lestat tried to get his girlfriend to frame Thomas for a bunch of bullshit. And she went with it because she was in love with some Mexican drug addict. Like, this is great stuff. Each member of MSU's board of trustees and 2 ostensibly unconnected faculty members are Dilley's co-defendants in the sprawling lawsuit, which asserts a series of cryptic hypotheses trying to pin blame for her alleged misdeeds on the university. Whether those theories swiftly unravel or firmly take root, the case certainly underlines a number of tensions for the growing league of academics who study online information. At play are questions about how universities and academic journals can best handle contentious research about the often volatile world of the internet, and about what happens when scholars who intend only to study it find themselves entangled in its unearthly orbit. Well, I know what they should do. Academic professors should go and get involved in internet circles by sleeping with people in the internet circles. Dilley's case represents a rather extreme example of that phenomenon. She claims her involvement began as purely academic pursuit, But today, the professor is perhaps more of a character in the hyper-specific internet subculture than a chronicler of it. She's no longer an academic professor. She's like an internet shit poster. Congratulations. It was a transformation that happened over years of cryptic tweets, a series of appearances on sewer-themed podcasts, multiple complaints about the veracity of her research, and a romantic entanglement with a conspiracy insider turned research partner turned disgruntled double agent. At the dispute's outermost surface, there is a simple debate about the veracity of a research paper. But dig any deeper and you'll find a Gordian knot of obsessive actors and outlandish arguments on all sides of a long-standing battle easily deemed incomprehensible by anyone other than those inside it. That's pretty much exactly how you could describe this whole situation. It's anyone that's outside of it, you couldn't even begin. You would need hours to even begin to describe to them all of the ridiculous bullshit that's been going on. Hours. Like, no one could even possibly. This is the lawyer, Barry Powers, speaking. The professor and the provocateur. QAnon was not a logical research subject for Dilley. The professor's previous publications focus on the science of hearing and speech in children with cognitive disabilities, not the extremist conspiracy theory creeping into the nation's mainstream political discourse. It was 2020 and she had tenure. The pandemic was bringing not just shutdowns and sickness, but an unprecedented avalanche of online misinformation. Lots of people took up hobbies in COVID, she told State News. Some people took up knitting. Others took up baking. My hobby was learning to analyze Twitter data using computational metrics and studying QAnon. Weird. See, during COVID, the person, me, that you're accusing of being involved with QAnon, I was busy working because I was a critical worker. Keeping people safe in the air. Keeping the country's military safe operating in the air. Not creating QAnon. The theories suggest that a cabal of deep state Democrats who engage in cannibalism and pedophilia led a global child sex trafficking ring, but are secretly prosecuted by Donald Trump. See, this is shit I never said to anyone. I never said that Donald Trump was secretly prosecuting people. Right? The other stuff, yes, there is a global elite group of those sickos. It's reared its head multiple times. What do you think Epstein is? Centers around the cryptic post of a supposed government insider known as Q, which was all bullshit, and I said that from the beginning. Dilley's 2021 paper, QAnon Propaganda on Twitter as Information Warfare, Influencers, Networks, and Narratives, total horseshit paper, attempts to undermine the assumption that the conspiracy naturally collected support as a grassroots campaign, instead pointing to evidence of large-scale coordination among QAnon-related accounts. It suggests Russian operatives could have helped orchestrate the rise of QAnon due to an overlap between accounts that promoted QAnon and those that spoke Russian. Again, the whole Russian conspiracy thing has been completely proven to be bullshit. Like, multiple times. The paper also notes an overlap between QAnon-related accounts and accounts that promoted other extremist content like anti-Semitism, accounts that promote New Age and occult themes, and those that were involved in internet puzzles. The last finding is where Schoenberger comes in. Citing data pulled from Twitter, the paper shows how Schoenberger's Twitter accounts were very popular in online QAnon circles, as was Cicada 3301, a mysterious internet puzzle game popular in the early 2010s. Wait, so was it popular in the early 2010s or popular in 2021 or 2020 during COVID? And online onlookers, including Dilley, have long speculated that Schoenberger gamejacked Cicada from its creator when he incorporated as an LLC in 2014, though he denies the allegation, saying it was a collective that he wrote music for and contributed ideas to from the beginning. And we know that to be true because there are references, multiple of them, to Thomas Schoenberger in the Liber Primus. There's also references to Iona Miller, and there's also references to Ian Murdoch in the Liber Primus. And the Liber Primus is the one thing they all can admit is a real part of the real Cicada game that still has not been completely decrypted. Right? So how could he have game jacked it if he's referenced in the Liber Primus? Along with Ian Murdoch and Iona Miller. Oh, wait. No, he couldn't have, could he? So all of that game jacking nonsense is a bunch of people that are fucking lying. Cicada, from its true creator, when he incorporated it as an LLC in 2014, denies the allegation. It's one of several internet feuds that Schoenberger is wrapped up in. While a cursory Google search presents him as nothing more than an unconventional musician, on deeper corners of the web, critics say that Schoenberger is an internet troll, manipulator, hypnotist, a cyberstalker, and even a rapist. Wow. He's been accused of causing mental breakdowns and impersonating a doctor. Schoenberger vehemently denies all such claims. Yes, the anti-Schoenberger people are fucking nuts. They claim all types of shit. I've heard them claim he's like the Zodiac Killer and other things. I mean, it's insane. He does concede some oddities. His organization believes that God can be perceived through frequencies, sound, and music. That sounds fairly accurate. Everything can be perceived through frequencies. The entire universe is built on frequency. God spoke everything into existence. Which would mean everything's created through sound frequency. He once described himself online as a killing machine. Well, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm also a killing machine. I'm 5'10", 200 pounds, pure muscle, unstoppable killing machine. That's exactly how I describe myself. Thanks to his regimented martial arts and axe throwing, and his own lawsuit identifies him as one of the most neurodivergent individuals living. At least once, Schoenberger ventured from far-flung internet enclaves to huddles with high-profile right-wing politicos. In a sworn deposition, he admitted involvement in planned wiretapping scheme targeting the parents of DNC staffer Seth Rich, whose sudden death fueled far-right conspiracy theories, though Schoenberger insists he ultimately refused to go through with it. The academic veneer of Dilley's assertions have emboldened Schoenberger's detractors, giving them an apparently reputable claim connecting him to the nationally derided conspiracy theory. QAnon's claims. Dilley's paper asserts that Schoenberger was involved early in the promotion of QAnon narratives and that he may have groomed Cicada 33-1 participants into posting his Q. These claims are not attributed to her findings from the Twitter data, but instead to a barrage of obscure, since-deleted news articles and blog posts. Asked about the veracity of the sources, Dilley told State News she was unconcerned. So we're looking at your sources here, Dilley, and it looks like everything that you're claiming has been deleted and doesn't exist. Would you like to explain that?
No! No, Thomas Schoenberger's evil, I'm telling you! My name's Laura Dilley, and I'm telling you, he's so evil! My boyfriend Lestat told me all this stuff, it's totally true!
Okay, Dilley, thanks. She was unconcerned.
I'm not concerned!
Pointing out that none of the peer reviewers who examined drafts of the paper had issues.
None of the people that are my friends that reviewed this had any issues with my total bullshit and lack of sources.
A separate unpublished manuscript furthered these claims, according to the lawsuit. That research claims Schoenberger used psychological warfare methods to spread QAnon narratives, among other things. The research generated some legitimate discussion. It was promoted by MSU on social media. That's good to know. So MSU, you are promoting this total horseshit. And its findings were covered in several mainstream news outlets, including Business Insider, Rolling Stone, and Financial Times. Oh, so major news companies took this crap and ran with it. That's good. That doesn't, hurt Schoenberger and everyone else and defame a whole bunch of people. In the years since, Schoenberger has denied any involvement with QAnon, repeatedly criticizing Dilley and the veracity of her nonsense on social media. His pushback has escalated in recent months. First, he sent legal letters to the professor in MSU demanding a retraction of the paper. When those pleas went unanswered, he filed his lawsuit in Michigan's Court of Claims last month, naming Dilley and MSU as defendants. The university declined to comment on the pending litigation. Schoenberger's complaint argued that while his internet puzzles are deeply mysterious, they aren't cultish or political, and he has no involvement with QAnon. He takes issue with the underlying logic of the paper's mathematical analysis of Twitter, arguing that just because someone interacted with a QAnon-related account doesn't mean they are connected to the conspiracy. Dilley's analysis method is equivalent to saying, if you talk to someone or even read what others say, then you get contaminated by them and can be accused of sharing and supporting their views. Schoenberger wrote in an email to State News, even a conversation to learn what another person thinks and to express disagreement with them qualifies as being a member of their ideological camp. And that's how the Twitter thing worked. If you interacted with those accounts at all, it didn't matter how, they just added you to this mathematical, formula where they're like, well, these accounts are all connected. That's not how the world works, Dilley told the State News their research was not meant to be a definitive picture of who was involved in QAnon and why, but instead a snapshot of social media circles at a pertinent point in history that further research could be based on. The research, which used quantitative methods to track and map Twitter interactions, is of limited scope, she said, suggesting a non-academic like Schoenberger might be confused by the discursive nature of academic papers. That is a logical fallacy there, Dilley. You are trying to say that you have special knowledge because you are an academic and that non-academics aren't as smart as you just because we're not involved in academia. That's retarded. That's the logical fallacy. We can understand your stupid mapping crap quite easily. It's not that hard to understand. It's just horseshit. In ways, Schoenberger's complaint does distort some of Dilley's statements. It claims, for example, the paper called Schoenberger the mastermind behind QAnon. But, this phrase was taken not from the text of the paper, rather an article cited in the appendix titled, "Is Thomas Schoenberger the mastermind behind QAnon?" So, she didn't call Thomas Schoenberger the mastermind behind QAnon. She just got articles published about him titled, "Is Thomas Schoenberger the mastermind behind QAnon?" I mean, talk about splitting fucking hairs. Schoenberger's lawsuit attempts to establish great financial consequences resulting from Dilley's claims, says she ruined a row of lucrative business opportunities the Schoenberger had in the works, including 2 game show deals, a book deal, a partnership for games, and even a TV show based on his creative product and skills. Schoenberger wasn't the only person who had concerns about Dilley's research connecting them with QAnon. Also upset was communications consultant Trevor Fitzgibbon, who ran a major progressive PR firm until he was accused of sexual misconduct in 2015. He also briefly worked with Schoenberger on an online reputation management firm called Shadowbox. Dilley's paper calls Fitzgibbon a QAnon insider, a finding touted in a presentation of Dilley's research promoted by MSU's official social media accounts and tweets she posted. Frustrated, Fitzgibbon messaged Dilley on Twitter disputing the allegation and threatening to sue. She didn't respond to the legal threat, according to screenshots both shared with the state news. Fitzgibbons maintained that he has never subscribed to the QAnon theory or worked to promote it. In fact, months before Dilley's paper, he authored an op-ed criticizing QAnon while warning that online operatives are turning Q accusations into modern-day Salem witch trials. See, just like me and other people she accused of being involved with Q, there's documented evidence that we were against it long before she named people like me and Trevor and Thomas as being behind Q. We were all publicly stating we were not. Yet she did the shit anyways. Because she's a fucking idiot and can't research to save her fucking life, obviously. She can see that it's possible he could have interactions with people subscribed to the theory, but that's just guilt by association. It's saying that if I knew someone 5 years ago and that person turns out to be crazy, now I believe what they believe. There's got to be some calculated reason why she's doing this, he said. This is a professor at MSU. I don't think they would employ someone who is actually insane, unquote. Dilley's paper also labels web developer Susie Dawson as a QAnon insider, despite her being one of its earliest detractors. According to her colleague Sean O'Brien, a cybersecurity instructor at Yale Law School, he was one of the several critics who wrote to the academic journal Frontiers in Communications demanding that it rescind its offer to publish Dilley's paper. Dilley told the state news that her list of QAnon insiders was an educated guess from individuals that were known or suspected of promoting QAnon based on a combination of largely unpublished Twitter data sets, news reports, and a, quote, number of podcasters/YouTubers, unquote, she had been listening to at the time. Let's break this down for a second. So Dilley told state news that her list of QAnon insiders was a, quote, educated guess. So her academic paper smearing people as QAnon insiders was just an educated guess at who those people were. And that she based this on unpublished Twitter data. So you can't even go and fact check the Twitter data because it's not published. It's some private set of Twitter data that no one can even fact check or verify. So therefore it's total fucking bullshit. News reports and a number of podcasters and YouTubers. So the words of YouTubers and podcasters, which means jack shit in any court. None of that is evidence. That's just people saying things. Dilley acknowledged that she could have chosen a different descriptor for the list, but she liked the phrase because it described and identified a number of accounts that she thought deserved further scrutiny, even while providing River to the level expected in academia to warrant acceptance at a well-respected journal. Dawson and Fitzgibbon were on the list, she said, because they promoted people who says promoted QAnon. Perhaps it's relevant that Dawson and Fitzgibbon both vocally criticized the conspiracy, Dilley admits, but one can be a supporter of QAnon either directly by promoting it or indirectly by platforming and working with individuals that were themselves vocal QAnon proponents. So Dilley doesn't care if you're actually anti-QAnon. If you just happen to be friends or promote anyone that promotes QAnon, you're guilty. That's completely retarded. That's completely admitting that your entire paper is bullshit guilt by association. Dilley attempted to protect publication, writing email to journal editors that said people all over the world are waiting for this article to come out. Oh, really? How many people all over the world are waiting for this? How many people have you sent this to and smeared and defamed people with this? And claiming that O'Brien and Dawson were harassing her and conspiring with Schoenberger. Everyone that disagrees with me is harassing me. It's ridiculous. Like, if you don't want people to criticize you, Dilley, don't defame them. Dilley told State News that she believes the pair objected to the paper because of some connection to Russia. Oh my God. Yeah, everyone who doesn't like my papers
Connected to Russia? Like they're all Russian? Making a vague assertion that they're all part of some Moscow blockchain organization?
Dawson O'Brien said the reason for their outreach was to address what they saw as flaws in Dilley's research. Both denied even knowing who Schoenberger is. If anything, O'Brien said Dilley's defense underlies the issues with her research altogether. Professor Dilley seems to place me and many others in whatever conspiracy she finds compelling for her narrative, O'Brien said in an email to State News. These kinds of conspiratorial corkboards of connections with pins and strings between people who have never met is a major flaw in her analysis of social networks in internet-based communities. Other scholars and faculty advocacy groups also wrote to the journal saying they supported Dilley and hoped to see her paper published, but their efforts were fruitless. After 2 months of consideration, the journal wrote to Dilley saying editors had investigated the concerns raised and ultimately decided to rescind their offer to publish the article. Editors said they determined it violated a section of the journal's policy on ascribing negative labels to individuals without their consent. They did not specify what parts of the paper violated the policy. Dilley said she would have changed how she labeled the list of QAnon insiders if the journal had given her that option. Instead, Dilley took their abrupt decision as proof they had been
harassed into submission.
When asked about a claim, the spokesperson for the journal repeated what it told Dilley and declined to clarify further. With the paper's chances at being published in an online journal, Dilley opted instead to publish in an open access archive. The listed co-authors on the paper are Faith Foster, then an MSU undergraduate, and William Welna, a computer programmer who helped collect the Twitter data underpinning the paper. Welna did not have experience with academic research and asked the State News. Dilley declined to explain how she found him in the first place. Welna has since disavowed the project. In a blog post, the programmer wrote that the research would be strictly academic, but since it's been disturbed by trolling, lawfare, surrounding personal relationship issues that erupted after the publication. Welna has defended the paper's findings that were brought forth by the Twitter data he collected, but said it's all the stuff that after that makes everything very muddled. The relationship at play, Welna told State News he was disturbed by Dilley and Schoenberger's complicated personal and professional history with another credited researcher, Arturo Tafoya, who had no formal experience in research or academic writing when he was credited in the acknowledgments of the paper.
My boyfriend is awesome. I'm going to include him in the acknowledgments of this paper. I don't care if he's injecting liquid cocaine into himself. He gets acknowledgement, okay?
A spoiled romance. Graphic designer based in Mexico, Tafoya first encountered Schoenberger around 2017 when he asked to produce artwork for Cicada. In a 2023 blog interview, he compared his recruitment to a school play in front of me where they dazzled me, but his awe quickly faded, he said. And he grew suspicious the puzzle was a, quote, hijacked version, I've already addressed this, lacking the secret code that supposedly underpins the real game. Tafoya then became wary of Schoenberger, deciding that this guy is dangerous and definitely not what he pretends to be. He grew more resentful as he started to believe his art was being used to spread QAnon theories. Yeah, and then Lestat went around the internet and told everyone that Thomas Schoenberger can't play the piano, which has been proven not true. Thomas Schoenberger can play the piano. He made a bunch of other lies up. That's just like the most obvious lie that he spread everywhere and was like adamant about for months, maybe even a year. Oh, Thomas Schoenberger can't play the piano. They even got that OG1 Kenobi guy to get involved in that. Remember? Oh, he can't play the piano. Oh, turns out he can. That was all lies from Arturo, who never turned out to be a good source of information for Laura Dilley. Quote, my things were used to create propaganda, my memes, my imagery, the videos. When I saw them in a queue overlap, it made my blood boil. He claimed in the blog interview, suspicious of Schoenberger, Tafoya said he started asking other Cicada affiliates, hey, is Thomas Q? The only answer I got was like, I can't tell you, and a little giggle. He told the blog, I was just a new guy and they didn't trust me that much. So that makes Thomas Q then. Like, people laughing at you makes it true then. Dilley met Tafoya in early 2021, she said. By then he was disgruntled and working to archive evidence of Cicada's supposed connection to QAnon. Their first interaction was purely professional, Dilley said, recounting how she sent him a draft of her paper to get feedback. Soon after that, their relationship became romantic. Dilley declined to describe exactly what happened in her interview with the State News. Arturo sent her dick shots or something. He was like, I love your paper. What do you think about my penis? And Dilley was like, ooh, I haven't seen one of those in like 18 years. Dilley declined to describe exactly what happened in her interview. She described in the Union in a tweet, writing that they fell in love and joined forces under the looming specter of internationally known sick con man Thomas Schoenberger. In a voice memo to the State News, Schoenberger characterized their relationship by saying, they are having a menage a trois with me, except I wasn't there. Oh, no. In Dilley's retelling, Tafoya never directly contributed the research in the paper. Still, he asked her to be credited, she said, struggling to articulate his contribution beyond a sort of indirect context by adding, for example, his archival footage of different YouTubers. In the end, he was not named a co-author at the top of the paper, but is thanked in the acknowledgments as a contributor of research background and feedback on drafts. She told the State News the credit was consistent with a sort of mentor role I've had long with the students. Oh no! How many students and how many of these mentor roles have you had, Dilley? How many of these students have you had a romantic mentor role with? Now we all want to know. This is a similar role you've had with other students? No wonder you wanted to be a professor in college, huh? More than a year after the paper was posted online, Dilley and Tafoya embarked on a new venture, an Etsy store, selling cicada-themed merchandise. Hey guys, come get your cicada-themed stuff. Because Tafoya, who became a cicada person in 2017? That's totally not copyright theft and all kinds of stuff that he had. Like, he totally created Cicada, right? Because he joined in 2017. So him and Laura Dilley should totally be allowed to sell cicada shit, you know? It was a chance to inspire people, Dilley said, explaining that Tafoya believed the original cicada puzzle, before it was hijacked by Schoenberger, was still worth admiring. I mean, exploiting. It was still worth exploiting. In his lawsuit, Schoenberger argues the enterprise infringed upon his ownership of Cicada, saying the couple planned to exploit his Cicada 3301 brand while simultaneously destroying his life. Dilley disputed the claim, saying Tafoya owned the rights to the imagery. Oh, did he? Because it was primarily art make he made while working for Cicada. She added that the work was approved by MSU, saying the university told her she could pursue the, quote, side hustle if she didn't spend more than 1 day a week on it. The university declined to confirm the existence of such an arrangement. The university said you could go and steal art from Cicada and sell it on the side, as long as you only did it one of your work days a week while you're on tenure. I somehow highly doubt that's true. I completely highly doubt that's true. Yes, 1 day of work a week. You can go and steal artwork and sell it online with your Mexican drug addict boyfriend. Great idea. And MSU approves of this. Last year, after the paper and Etsy store, Dilley and Tafoya's relationship ended acrimoniously. The two exchanged scores of tweets detailing and dissecting the romance and breakup in graphic detail, with Dilley calling Tafoya a psychopathic narcissist just like Thomas, practicing extortion, blackmail, bribery, and international conspiracy. See how Dilley just automatically jumps to complete nonsense? Oh yes, Tafoya, my boyfriend, was extorting me and blackmailing and bribing and involved in an international conspiracy. Like, how many times does she have to claim this about everyone? Like, 2 weeks before that, Tafoya was the greatest researcher ever and being put into her paper. And if he was this bad person doing all these bad things, and he's your source of information in your paper, doesn't that completely make your paper horseshit and like time to rescind and retract and issue apologies? No? Okay, let's just double down and keep going. Tafoya in turn posted screenshots of hundreds of profane text messages exchanged between him and Dilley amid various fights. In them he complains Dilley kept a secret Tinder account. Ooh. During their relationship. Imagine swiping right on Laura Dilley.
Yes, I'm like a 45, 50-year-old college professor. Do you want to be my boyfriend?
Fuck me. She's so gross looking too. That would be the fastest swipe left ever. Tafoya. The fights apparently prompted Tafoya to attempt suicide. Oh wait, no, I didn't even get to this. Tafoya in turn posted screenshots of hundreds of profane text messages exchanged between him and Dilley amid various fights. It's always good for a tenured MSU professor to have her lewd, profane text messages put out there on the internet. And then he complains Dilley kept a secret Tinder account, blah, blah, blah. Well, she says that his life is over without her and criticizes his use of various drugs. The fights apparently prompted Tafoya to attempt suicide, according to his tweets, that has since given way to a persistent online theory pushed by Schoenberger's followers that accuses Dilley of bully-siding Tafoya to silence him. Dilley has called the entire saga a hoax, saying medical assistant told her that Tafoya's mother disputed the attempted suicide at all. I thought it was Schoenberger who was the one calling medical people. It's Dilley doing that? Oh, okay. Schoenberger once supported the bully-side theory, but has recently disavowed it, saying that based upon evidence we have seen, the suicide attempt or attempts are not real, but I suspect it's because Arturo and his family are terrified of the professor. So, who knows? I don't know what happened with all that. Do you know what happened with all that? In the time since the breakup, Schoenberger claims that he and Tafoya have reconnected and are working together to get back at Dilley. Their newfound alliance has apparently allowed Schoenberger access to Dilley's personal files, which he says Tafoya obtained through a digital file sharing system they created during their relationship. Among the items Schoenberger acquired and posted online or shared with the state news are excerpts from a draft of Dilley's autobiography. Oh, God. She's writing an autobiography of herself.
Oh yes, I'm Laura Dilley, and I've spent my life as a dumb bitch doing nothing in academic circles. Providing nothing to fucking society at all. Because I'm just another dumb fucking academic.
Oh, God. Imagine being so fucking, like... an autobiography of Laura Dilley. Oh my God. She is fucking insane. She really is. She really thinks a lot of herself, huh? A series of graphic sexual communications exchanged amid the end of her relationship with Tafoya and emails with colleagues at MSU, which gave one to another of his theories. So this goes on to some theory about the Turners. I don't really quite understand all this, but basically Two people with the last name Turner, Thomas thinks, have something to do with all this. I'm not sure what it has to do with. Dilley interacted with Turner to advise against engaging with Schoenberger. And then that brought in Rocco Castoro. Castoro also wrote directly to Dilley saying that the cat is out of the bag, and he was referring to the matter the two of his colleagues because he didn't have the bandwidth to handle Kardashian-level drama. Again, Castoro did not explain the drama in question. Castoro said he barely remembers the interaction, describing the situation as two idiots fighting over a bone with no meat on it. Schoenberger said he's going to plan to accuse the MSU professor of sedition and engaging in cyber terrorism against American citizens, using foreign actors, threats, intimidation tactics, humiliation rituals, and more. The Turner guy said he's going to ignore all these messages. Schoenberger's theory about the Turners posits that Dilley conspired with Sean Turner to leverage her criticism of him at QAnon into work with national media and intelligence sector. In an email sent to Turner after a meeting with Dilley arranged, she summarized the backlash she was receiving for her research and asked Turner to help her with the communications response to anticipated media attention. She suggests he could help her break into work with U.S. defense-related agencies on things like psyops and narrative warfare, she wrote in the email. And then she stated she was, quote, very interested in opportunities to become a commentator on CNN, unquote, where Turner was a national security analyst. In Schoenberger's reading, the email is proof that, quote, Dilley's paper was a propaganda hit job, unquote, motivated by her ambition to appear on CNN and work in the intelligence sector. Dilley said that while she was interested in where the paper could take her, the pursuit began as a hobby. Schoenberger's claim is a load of crap, she said. Holy shit, delete this. For months after the paper was posted online, Schoenberger and his followers worked to discredit Dilley in her research. In her retelling, she was continually harassed and was growing paranoid about her safety. Of particular concern was when she was mentioned by name in the supposed Cicada clue. Schoenberger denied Cicada clue's target individuals and said that the tweet Dilley was referencing was not an official clue. If that tweet had said, find the professor and kill her, I personally would have notified Twitter, he said. Her worries came to a dramatic climax when on February 13th, 2023, a shooter opened fire at MSU. An emergency alert was sent to campus. In minutes, Dilley issued a tweet. I was targeted through stochastic terrorism tactics for my research on QAnon disinformation on Twitter, she wrote. Remains to be seen if there is a connection to the active shooter situation at Michigan State University. Attached was an earlier post calling Schoenberger a slick con man and claiming that the FBI was investigating him for asking his followers to stalk and harass her. A spokesperson for the relevant field office declined to confirm the existence of any investigation. Dilley also added a link to her paper on Schoenberger and QAnon. Holy shit, delete this, a commenter responded. You are not the main character. No, Dilley is the main character. She has such bad main character syndrome. She's writing her own autobiography, okay? Dilley wrote back, of course I am not, but if there's any connection, then it should be investigated. So, like, I totally could be the main character, okay? Why would you tweet this in the middle of a mass shooting? Is there not enough disinformation and misinformation floating around, the critic asked. You have literally zero reason to think it's connected. Shameful. How do you know? Dilley responded. I don't know how to explain to you as an adult and individual of an authority, an institution, that while your students are literally dying and in hospital, it isn't appropriate to tweet out unsubstantiated claims, they quipped back. The next day after the shooter had been identified, Dilley doubled down. She claimed a cryptic tweet from earlier that morning confirmed her fear. Don't cross Cicada301, hashtag real, read the tweet posted by a devotee of the puzzle. Some tried and are finding out. Dilley wrote that the post was a, quote, threat to anyone challenging the dangerous Cicada ARG. Yes, the dangerous Cicada ARG. The most dangerous puzzle ever. It's just a puzzle. Like, imagine assigning danger to a puzzle. It's a puzzle. I have eyes and can see, and so can others, she tweeted. The author of the post, Mindy Waite, yes, the deadly Mindy Waite, female assassin, the Black Widow assassin of Cicada 3301, Mindy Waite, said the message was a reference to a separate internet feud and had nothing to do with Dilley, adding, it's beyond all logic why she would craft this narrative. But she succeeded in causing me to live in fear of my children and I being targeted for revenge by insane internet people who believed her. Yeah, that's true. Dilley did actually do that. Now, more than 2 years later, Dilley said she stands by the tweets. Of course she does. I was sharing what I consider to be a tip, and like many tips and hunches, it didn't turn out to be anything. So why not rescind it and retract it now that you know it's not true, Dilley? Like, it wasn't a tip if it was completely not true. Like, what are you talking about? Still, Dilley said that in the moment, she, quote, felt it was important to share a perspective that might draw attention to Cicada puzzle as something that could be radicalizing or dangerous. So lying about the Cicada thing and calling it all these things and saying it had something to do with a mass shooting that had nothing to do with is okay because you don't like the puzzles. Because you don't like the puzzles, it's okay to just completely lie. That's what you're saying. In his lawsuit, Schoenberger claims he is permanently and psychologically paralyzed, traumatized, and in profound fear for the safety and well-being of family, friends, and himself because of the tweets by alleging that he was connected to the shooting during the chaotic, then ongoing event. He argues that Dilley could have triggered a misguided act of vigilante justice towards him. Allegations made amid the shooting may be the most dramatic Twitter interaction between Dilley and those she studies, but it was by means not the only case. For years, she's been incredibly active on the platform, constantly interacting with Schoenberger and those in his orbit. Some of the disputes are about the paper, with allies of Cicada lobbying outer critiques, matched by Dilley's fervid defense. But much of the back and forth is fairly detached from her research, with Dilley partaking in incomprehensible feuds involving a slew of Cicada-related theories and an endless stream of cryptic hashtags. Asked about the tweeting, Dilley said she views it as an extension of her job. She said this is her job, to go online and fight with people about this shit. This is her job. This is what she's paid to do. This is why MSU has given her tenure, because she goes on Twitter and gets involved in ridiculous online battles with people that are like mostly trolling her. I mean, you've got it. How is this helping MSU? How is this helping the students of MSU get a better education? How is Laura Dilley going on Twitter and getting involved in these arguments helping MSU with its goals of like advancing education? It's not. None of this has anything to do with the purview or the mission of MSU whatsoever. This is all the insane actions of a completely narcissistic professor that has made claims that are completely not true, and she can't be big enough to take them down and issue an apology, even though she's been completely proven not true. Asked about the tweeting, echoing her assertions about the broad mandate that comes with tenure, she said that my understanding of my role as faculty member is that there is an expectation to be involved in matters of public concern, and the debate is about key issues. What? The public concern? The public is concerned with your online arguments with random cicada trolls? I don't think so. Beyond Dilley and MSU, the lawsuit comes amid a broader crusade by Schoenberger, who has sent legal letters to a number of his critics in the recent months. In his telling, the flurry of litigious demands is a way of reclaiming his reputation from a conspiracy of liars. The recipients, meanwhile, characterized the letters as a series of hollow threats designed to silence them. One letter went to Terry Joyce Randolph, a finalist on NBC's Last Comic Standing in 2003, and former pornographic screenwriter, who is now a returning student at Fresno State University, where she works for the student newspaper. The January letter she received from Schoenberger's attorney takes issue with the tweets she posted about Dilley's paper, calling him a QAnon propagandist, demands that she retract the post, as well as a comment on Cicada LLC's Bizopedia page, calling it a hashtag fraud. After receiving the letter, Randolph never issued any retraction of the post, but Schoenberger never followed up or escalated the matter. She told the State News she suspects that the letter was just meant to intimidate me and have a chilling effect so that I don't talk about him anymore. Randolph framed the letter as a latest installment in a years-long campaign of harassment against her, starting when she first discussed QAnon Cicada on her radio show and podcast. She accused Schoenberger and his followers of doxing her address, calling her job, and trying to get her fired, spreading rumors that she's a child trafficking pedophile, and photoshopping images of her being beheaded by Pepe the Frog, a cartoon character that has been co-opted as an anti-Semitic hate symbol. Schoenberger either disputes these claims or suggests someone else did them. While Dilley is the only recipient of a letter demanding retraction to actually be sued for not complying, Schoenberger told the State News he does plan to follow through on others in the future. Randolph, though she isn't worried, referencing a media law class she's taking as part of her undergraduate journalism curriculum, she said, "I don't even see how he thinks this is a defamation case on my part. If anything, I feel like I have a defamation case against him." See, in my opinion, if I was Thomas, I wouldn't sue Terry because Terry has absolutely no money. And if you sue her, you're not going to get even your legal expenses covered, even if you win. Because she's got nothing. She's broke as a joke, probably in massive debt and student loan debt. You know, what are you going to get out? You're not going to get anything out of that. And in terms of fucking Terry Joyce suing anyone, she has no damages. She has no damages at all because she has nothing. You couldn't possibly cause her any damages because she has nothing to lose. Like, she hasn't lost anything because of any of this. She had nothing that could have been lost by any of it anyway. She's a complete broke joke, like, student at like 90 years old. So, you know, there's no case there either way. In my opinion, another letter was sent to Lisa Derrick, a Los Angeles-based consultant, who he'd win a wig in return. Like, congratulations. He provides witchcraft and occult for business, media, and individuals, according to her LinkedIn profile. The legal letter Schoenberger sent her disputes a series of tweets in a 2020 interview, which she accused him of raping her in 79 and 95, demanding a retraction of the allegation. A third letter was sent to Paula Sue Davis, taking issue with the Indiana woman's online posts tying Schoenberger to QAnon. The letter also singles out a tweet by Davis which calls him a 64-year-old loser, stalker, narcissist, felon. Schoenberger was once convicted of felony stalking, but the charge was recently expunged, according to court records. State News reached out to Davis for comment. Her husband, Jesse Davis, responded, describing a cultish saga between his wife and Schoenberger. Almost 10 years ago, having just finished writing a book about spirituality, he said his wife was bored. And Jesse was busy at the gay bar, so she stumbled upon one of Schoenberger's internet puzzles. She soon started communicating with Schoenberger, who, quote, brainwashed her to believe she would be reborn and inherit the world's wealth, according to Davis. It was Mother Mary cult type stuff, he said, adding that he believes Schoenberger hypnotized her using videos of flashing lights, and she claims to know about certain musical notes and tones do that to your brain. I mean, come on. Come on, dude. Fuck me. One day I'm watching my wife watch a video that he emailed her a link to, saying she had to watch it, Davis said. She literally slumped over in her chair as if she was totally under a hypnotic spell. Yeah, because that's just like what everyone does when they watch shit. They just slump over and get engrossed in it. Ooh, they're hypnotized. Ooh. Paula Davis suffered a severe mental breakdown stemming from the hypnosis, sending her to a psychiatric facility. Jesse Davis said soon after he arrived, he claims the facility received a call from a doctor in California saying she did not need to be treated, rather suggesting she be sent home with Xanax and noise-canceling headphones. The mysterious caller's name, Dr. Tom Schoenberger, according to Davis in a medical file he shared with the state news. Schoenberger denies that he impersonated a doctor when speaking to the facility, and while he agreed that his music can cause hypnosis, he disputed that it left Davis in need of psychiatric care. My music is something that people do get hypnotized by, just as they get hypnotized by Beethoven, Mozart, and Bach, Schoenberger said. Do I believe that Paula was driven crazy by my music? No. I think she's an actress, and I think she's putting on a show. I don't think she's acting. I think she was just driven crazy by her own fucking crazy fucking life and the shit that she has to deal with. Imagine living with Jesse Davis. You would be driven crazy by that shit too. So it goes on, all this crap, you know, the whole thing, but that's pretty much the article there. It goes more into the whole Jesse Davis LARP. But there you go. That's the article. It was really interesting. I can't believe someone wrote all of this up. I mean, absolutely nuts. And there you go. I mean, I guess that's the best summary of the whole thing in one news article. And it's pretty fair to both sides, I would say. I added my own little interpretations in there and made it a lot more fair to my side of the argument. But the article itself is pretty fair both ways. So this appeared in the state news. So very interesting. I've never heard of that before, but there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you have a nice night. And, you know, in honor of all these communists at the social universities, let's play a little music video on the way out of here. All right, here we go. I got it keyed up now. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful night. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Remember to tell people I still exist. I saw someone say that, you know, they're back after a long time. Didn't realize I was still making videos. That's what happens. But we are growing, and, you know, we're at like almost 2.5 thousand subscribers again on this channel. A lot of that is people that like my ski videos and stuff like that. That was how I was able to grow back so quickly. But, you know, those people are all getting red-pilled now by these live streams when I do those. So, got to grow the audience how you can. I appreciate everyone for watching. Thanks for watching out there, everybody. Peace. Remember, the thumbs up button. Hit the thumbs up button. Appreciate it. All right, take care, everyone. Have a wonderful evening and enjoy Joel, the automation song, the song of the communists.
been recognized. We are weaponized in the fires of industry. Scorching up the skies. Watch our enterprise. Demise of democracy. We are Legion. We are one. The red of treason. Autonomyless. What is your freedom under illusion? With the revived descendants of what was lost and done.